The cheers filled the air like confetti, bursts of laughter, proud shouts, and the rustle of gowns brushing against one another. But amid the ocean of smiling faces and proud families, Emily Carter sat alone in the very back row of the bleachers, her trembling fingers clutching the edge of her graduation cap. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from excitement, but from a deep ache she had carried for months. All around her, classmates embraced their parents, took pictures, and cried tears of joy. For Emily, there would be no photos, no warm hugs, no familiar voice calling her name from the crowd. Her mother was gone, her father hadn't shown up, and she was invisible in a sea of celebration. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected miracles, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, because sometimes stories like this remind us that even strangers can become the light we never expected. Emily had worked for 4 long years at the University of Michigan, balancing 2 part-time jobs while studying late into the night. Her mother, Grace, had been her biggest supporter, a single parent who sacrificed everything to make sure Emily never felt she lacked anything. But just 6 months before graduation, cancer took her mother away. The apartment they shared became a hollow echo of laughter that once filled it. Emily could barely pay rent, let alone afford the cap and gown she now wore. She had almost skipped the ceremony, but something inside her told her she needed to be there to see what her mother had dreamed of for her. As the dean began calling names, Emily's heart tightened. Every cheer that erupted around her felt like a reminder of who wasn't there. She clapped quietly for others, forcing a smile when classmates posed for pictures with their parents. She thought about how her mother had promised she'd be in the front row, camera in hand, crying happy tears. Now that seat was just an empty space. In her mind, when her name echoed across the loudspeaker, Emily Carter. Her stomach twisted. She rose slowly, walking the long path toward the stage. The applause around her seemed to fade into a blur of sound. Her vision blurred with tears she tried to hide. She shook hands, received her diploma, and smiled for the photographer, but deep down, she wanted to run away, to escape the loneliness pressing in on her chest. When she returned to her seat, she wiped her eyes discreetly and whispered to herself, "I did it, Mom. I wish you could see me." The ceremony ended and the crowd burst into chaos. Families ran to embrace graduates, balloons floated into the air, and laughter echoed across the campus lawn. Emily sat motionless, her diploma resting on her lap. She didn't have anyone to meet, no one to take a photo with. Around her, cameras flashed, fathers lifted daughters into their arms, and mothers wiped tears from their cheeks. Emily lowered her gaze, clutching her cap tightly, praying for the moment to just pass so she could leave unseen. That's when she felt a shadow fall over her. A soft voice said, "Excuse me, are you Emily Carter?" She looked up to see a woman in her late 40s holding a small bouquet of lilies. Her eyes were kind but unfamiliar. Emily blinked, startled. "Yes," she stammered. The woman smiled faintly and said, "I'm sorry to bother you. I knew your mother." The words hit her like a rush of wine. Emily froze. The woman continued gently, "My name's Sarah Thompson. I was a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. Your mom used to talk about you all the time. She said her biggest dream was to see you graduate. She even told me what you'd wear, said she'd make you a little silver necklace for the big day." Emily's hand instinctively went to her neck. She was wearing that very necklace, a small charm that read "Believe." Tears welled in her eyes. Sarah reached into her bag and handed her a small envelope, worn and folded at the edges. "Your mom asked me to give you this if she couldn't be here." Emily's hands shook as she opened the letter. Her mother's familiar handwriting danced across the page, slightly shaky but full of warmth. "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't keep my promise to be there. But know this, I am watching you. You made it, baby. All those nights you studied while I worked double shifts were worth it. You've become the woman I always hoped you'd be. When the world feels heavy and you feel alone, remember, love doesn't end when a heartbeat stops. It lives in the people we touch, in the kindness we pass on. So when that moment comes, when you look around and feel like no one's there, look again. Someone will be." By the time she reached the last line, tears were streaming down Emily's face. Sarah sat beside her quietly, not saying a word, just holding space for her grief. The sound of celebration around them faded into the background. Emily clutched the letter against her chest, whispering she knew. Sarah smiled softly and said, "Your mom asked me to be here today, just in case. She said she didn't want her daughter to sit alone." Then, gently, she reached out and took Emily's trembling hand. The gesture was simple, but in that moment it felt like the entire world had stopped spinning. Emily broke down, sobbing into Sarah's shoulder. The stranger held her tightly, whispering, "You're not alone, sweetheart. She's proud of you. And so am I." Around them, the laughter, music, and noise continued, but inside that small circle of shared tears, there was peace. Later, Sarah told Emily stories her mother had shared. How proud she was when Emily got her first scholarship, how she stayed up late sewing patches on her jacket, how she bragged about her daughter's kindness to everyone at the hospital. Each word painted a picture of a love that never faded, even through the pain. They walked together across the campus, and for the first time in months, Emily felt warmth in her chest that wasn't just grief. It was something softer, a spark of hope. Sarah invited her for coffee, and they sat in a nearby cafe as sunlight poured through the windows. They talked for hours, and Emily realized something her mother's letter had been trying to tell her, that love doesn't vanish. It finds its way back through people who care, even strangers. Over time, Sarah became a close friend, more like family. She attended Emily's job interviews, helped her move into her first apartment, and was there cheering when Emily got her first teaching job. Every year after that, they visited Grace's grave together, laying lilies, the same kind Sarah had brought that day, and reading a few lines from that letter. Years later, when Emily stood on another stage, this time as a teacher watching her own students graduate, she looked into the crowd and spotted Sarah, smiling proudly, and she felt her mother's presence all over again. Life had come full circle. Sometimes the people who step into our lives when we least expect it are the ones who remind us that even in the darkest places, love still finds its way. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind us of the beauty of human connection and the quiet miracles of kindness. Before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone who showed you kindness when you needed it most? We'd love to hear your story below. And somewhere, far above that Michigan sky, Emily believed her mother was smiling, proud, watching, and whispering, "See, my love." Someone was there.